In the US, only 64% of them are making use or have internet access.
The digital divide isn't always about access anymore.
I think there's a second digital divide. It's AI. I think that is also going to create a new digital divide.
Because if people don't adopt the service, the network alone does not solve the problem.
This isn't some, specialty tool for nerds.
Right.
This is transforming society. In this episode, we're breaking down why adoption still lags even when broadband is available.
All right, gentlemen, it's a new year, but we still have a story to be told. What do you guys think is still misunderstood about the digital divide in 2026? Rick?
For me, historically, the digital divide, I think, has been understood as a kind of a unidimensional thing, right? Like there's
Not you and I, but you and I.
Unidimensional maybe would even be how that's pronounced traditionally. I think it's unidimensional around geography and coverage.
Okay.
There are geographic areas that do not have broadband coverage, and that's really been the headline issue. And I'm not going to say we're done. We're not done. We know there's a lot of BEAD money still waiting to go out. There are a lot of areas that are underserved or unserved. However, to your point, new year, same story. The story is changing each year. That coverage number, that percentage of uncovered, homes, past homes, is reducing steadily. And I think that there is a second factor here that is going to become more and more of the headline issue as time goes on, and that coverage is there. And that is the affordability of broadband and some of the socioeconomic factors.
Broadband is basically a utility now, right? It's gas or water or electricity running through your house. But if you can't pay the water bill, your water bill gets shut off. Your water gets shut off, right? You can't pay the internet bill, your internet gets shut off. What then?
What then?
What's the economy of scale on that? Larry?
Right. So the change is from access to utilization is what the digital divide is. So I looked it up, and in the US, using the broadband term of 100 megabits per second, 98.2% of the households are covered.
Wow.
But of people with $35,000 per year annual income or less, only 64% of them are making use or have internet access of that they're signing up for. So
And that number is such a huge number. The 35% that aren't receiving internet at all, that can't work from home.
Over a
can't
third.
Study school. They can't do so many things without that internet access. And it's more and more things. I can't even go into my municipal offices now and pay my water bill. I have to pay my water bill online. Well, if I can't pay to be online, how do I pay my water bill? It's all kind of tied together. It's wild. Thank you for that statistic. That's fantastic.
I think there's a second digital divide, and we keep talking about it's AI. I think that is also going to create a new digital divide. The other stat I found, 85% are using AI, and by using AI, it's going to ChatGPT and saying, why does my foot hurt? And hoping it's going to tell you exactly why your foot hurts. But only 12% are using agentic AI at this point. And I think if we don't close that gap, and you're going to have these people who are really in the know and can use these tools to do phenomenal things, and it's going to create a new digital divide. And that I would say.
I would say it's not just
the haves
going to,
have-nots.
it's already happening.
Right.
The divide is there because of AI, because of information about digital literacy around AI, what it is, what it isn't, what it can do, what it can't do, what it shouldn't do, what you shouldn't feed it, how it can be leveraged. I liken it to the industrial revolution of this generation, right? Those who don't know how to wield the tools of AI are going to have to be reskilled or upskilled, or they're not going to have a job.
This is going to be like the internet, when it came into being and stuff, and it's huge.
I think that's a great parallel to draw. Yeah, this isn't some specialty tool for nerds.
Right.
This is transforming
This is
society.
going to be transformative for sure.
Transformative. Transform is my word for the year. So I think that's kind of one of those things that it's huge. And I dipped my toe into AI last year, and I really feel like I've got a good handle on some of the usages of ChatGPT and Claude and other tools that are available. I mean, even going to Google now, the first thing when you type in a sentence in the browser for Google, it gives you clearly
gives
an
you the
AI
AI
response,
summary, yes,
the AI
first.
summary, and then you have to discern what's AI and what's not AI, what is truth and what is generative information. I mean, I took a picture of a picture last night. And I was like, oh, that's a blonde girl. I really like that picture. And I took a picture of it, put it in ChatGPT. I said, I want that girl to have brown curly hair. And it spit out the spitting image of that picture I took a picture of and turned the hair color brown. And it was just like in the matter of 4 minutes, 5 minutes.
Right.
What's real? What's not real? Anything else that people are misunderstanding about the digital divide in 2026? And I think AI, you're spot on there, Larry.
I think just that transition is coming.
What do you gentlemen think are the most common reasons people don't adopt broadband, even when it is available?
I mean, we kind of touched on it before, but for me, it is the affordability factor for sure. I think a really good practical example of that is with LEO, low Earth orbit satellites. Obviously, there's from a coverage area perspective, right? That came on the scene, and if you have a clear view of the sky, you can have the internet. That has not wiped out the digital divide in terms of the, who has connectivity and who doesn't. And the answer is very clear. I mean, that is one of the most expensive ways to get broadband in terms of, dollars per megabits per second. So the affordability, I think, is really showcased in that. And I have an interesting example in Ontario. There was a pilot project that was being proposed where it was government funds, and it was the contractor selected actually was the largest LEO supplier.
Okay.
I think we all know who I'm talking about. And what's interesting about that is looking at, I forget what the budget was, however many millions, and it was just, it was a small pilot project. What they're subsidizing is the installations, which is interesting if you're familiar with how you get that product. You
self-install.
You self-install.
So what's to subsidize if I have to do the work myself anyway?
Right. So this was a very strange vendor choice.
Okay.
And I looked at this project, and it was in like northern Ontario, in a lot of native land as well. And the idea was, okay, we're going to bring connectivity to these people, and there was zero discussion whatsoever of the monthly costs. It maybe if there was like a bulk deal with that ISP, and it was negotiated that it would be a lower rate, or if some of this money was going to subsidize those monthly charges over time for the first 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever, then maybe I could sort of understand. But when you look at it, these homes today, without any checks being cut, without any additional satellites going in the sky, hypothetically, literally have the ability to sign up for the service. Why haven't they done it? It's not because someone didn't go and bolt it to the roof. It's because they can't afford the monthly. So even when it's being leveraged through these programs, it's not necessarily going to bridge the gap. And I thought that was so interesting because this program was identifying the wrong problem. They said we're going to get you service. The service is already
that it was
there.
About the installation
right
issue when it's really not.
And I was so kind of fired up about that one. That was a big LinkedIn post that I made because I was just like, is anyone else seeing this the way that I see it?
Well, and I had a whole long conversation about the cost of LEO, low Earth orbit satellite services in the U.S. and Canada being here to allow those services to be priced at a lower value for emerging nations in Africa or Central and South America. And I thought that was I don't know if the person I was talking to had any data to support that information, but that was their supposition, is that we're basically subsidizing global usage of the satellites, because the only way to make the satellites make sense is for it to have global impact, right? And I thought that was a very interesting take on the entire system of how the deployment is going. I do know that when there have been countries that have been in turmoil and the infrastructure for on-the-ground internet has been turned down by governments, those satellites have been the only way that connectivity has continued because they can't be controlled at the government level. And that is interesting as well.
We want to talk transformative. That's
We
transformative.
want to talk transformative.
Yep.
When X country, and I'm not going to name any country, when X country can't control the internet, which is how they control all communications,
Yep.
everything about the state, it opens up other opportunities.
It's true.
I mean, I'm the same thing. I think it comes down to affordability. I mean, when you see that statistic that only 64% have internet, that's astounding, and that's a huge gap that we need to overcome through more affordable options or more ubiquitous options or however we end up doing it. I don't know exactly what the solution is, but they've just got other expenses that they have to prioritize, and this can't be one of them, even though it's going to be a perpetuating problem if they're not in the internet and utilizing the services that we get from that. They're, like you said, paying my water bill. If I can only pay it on the internet, what are they doing? Going to the library so they can pay their water bill?
Apply for jobs. How do you get a job?
Right. Yeah. Right. So I mean, it's just going to perpetuate, and
Or
it's going to be a hard cycle to break out
I'm
of.
operating off of the internet on my phone, off of maybe free Wi-Fi. There's security issues with that. I mean, there's so many components and layers to it. If my son is trying to do his homework off of his phone or off of an iPad that was given to him by a cousin or whatever, what is that experience when the other kids in his class have got functioning PCs that of all the things that they need?
My
Yeah.
daughter is a teacher, and she sees the real impact of this. The kids that she knows can't be doing this stuff at home, and how it's keeping them back.
Well, and the pandemic really put a spotlight on this, right? You had kids who were literally sitting in their parents' cars in the parking lots around libraries so they could pick up the Wi-Fi from the school or from the library just so they could get their homework done. And that's not sustainable, right?
Right.
To not be able to be at home and do that in a pandemic, and you're operating in this mobile environment, is insane.
When there we may have teased them because I don't know about your communities, but like in ours, like a lot of our cellular companies and a lot of other people provided those in-home hotspots during COVID. And so they got the taste of having this, but then, once COVID went away,
The emergency was downgraded.
Yeah, right. So
Now you go back to campus early on, you stay
hotspots,
late.
and they don't have that access that they had for a short period of
Right.
time.
And that is a huge inequity. If you have to go physically somewhere outside of your home to complete your homework, like that has a ripple effect in what you can do with your time, the extracurriculars that you can justify, your opportunities in general.
And if you need to be at home to help care for other children because you've got a single mom that's working 2 jobs to pay the bills, to make sure there's food on the table, all those things, it is this vicious cycle of economics.
You can't leave.
And there are clear losers in this.
Agreed.
So how do language, accessibility, and support models impact adoption even more than speed tiers?
So again, I had to do some research into this, and I found a stat that said the language barrier, 1 in 5 non-adopters cite the fact that the ISP only supports English as being the reason that they don't sign up for a service.
Yep.
Well, that's like 20%. I mean, I wonder if ISPs, I don't think I realize that as an ISP. That's a big market that you're giving up on. Get some staff that can interact with these people and help them and do so in the language that they need the support.
And is the language Vietnamese? Is the language Spanish? I mean, what is your service
Right.
delivery
It's going to be
footprint?
different in each community. We have a lot of Spanish. We also have a huge Hmong population. So, having people who can speak Hmong.
But nowadays, you
French.
don't even need people if you invest in frontline resources, whether that's chatbots or self sign up tools that have language naturalization. You could, through just AI and technology and translations that are more accessible now than ever, you could support hundreds of languages ostensibly, and as long as it's enough to get them the service, then you're good to go. Obviously, support then becomes your next barrier. But again, I think that with technology, there's more options now than ever. And I would say that if you are currently going through the process of evaluating or introducing AI-driven tools for your frontline resources for your business, and you're not also layering in multi-language support as part of that solution, that's a major lost opportunity, because the delta in effort and investment in order to do that is smaller than you would think.
And it's getting smaller all the time. There's again, that's the great side of AI, is that you've got those language support systems that you can deploy into your operational systems.
Yep, it's very powerful.
I think the other thing is ISPs see these areas as things that are super expensive. Like, I don't think 20% is a lot, but it's going to cost me a lot to get this additional language support. Accessibility, if you don't consider that, that can be expensive. I think they see it as, that these are, high touch type customers, and they're going to require more investment on my side, and then are they worth it in propagating the problem of not wanting to take on? I think there's some not wanting to take on these customers.
So we're talking a lot about the ISPs kind of stepping up and doing the right thing and being proactive, but the digital divide, we have seen a lot of government participation in with programs and investments and strategies to make sure that the market did what needed to be done for the people. I think this could be another opportunity, and obviously when it comes to, suggesting regulation, things have to be done correctly. However, I would argue that if you put that requirement on the ISP that in order for you to sell your services, here's your minimum accessibility requirements, these are your minimum language requirements, that is a way to ensure that momentum starts to be built. Because you can't necessarily leave it up.
Funding money,
But
those
even the
requirements
browsers
are
are
Exactly my point. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Even browsers are trying to help, though, with the language issue. You can convert an entire web page into a different language with certain browsers, which is just amazing to me. So it's not that ABC Internet has to go translate everything on their website, inform intelligently your customers what they can do to access in their native language.
Right. I think these problems are more solvable today than they've ever been before. So
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Running an ISP means you're not just managing a network, you're supporting a community. Sonar gives you the operational power to do both brilliantly. Explore how at sonar.software.
Let's get ready to rumble. I love it or hate it. So let's go ahead and get this party started with community Wi-Fi as a bridge. Love it or hate it?
I'm going to go with hate it.
I love it.
Oh, I'm not going to vote. Convince me.
Oh,
Convince me. Which way? I don't know. Larry's won this twice.
I
in the
brought
last few episodes.
I made Rick flip one of his.
Well, let's
and
see.
brought you in.
Convince me.
All right,
Why
all right.
should I hate community Wi-Fi as a bridge?
So we just got done talking about this, and in fact, I think Rick made the point. So I'm gonna see if I can't get him to flop again. So
flipping or am I
experience-
flopping? Which is it?
Either
Flip-flop.
one. Either one is. I think this is just a Band-Aid, and it doesn't really solve the problem. This community Wi-Fi. So at least let's define community Wi-Fi. So I see it as the libraries providing service. Other places where I can go to get Wi-Fi. If I have to go to get Wi-Fi, I'm not doing it. So I don't think it is really solving any problem. The kid who has to stay at home because his mom's working 2 jobs, he can't go to the library and use the Wi-Fi, and it's not realistic for him every day to go to the library and do his homework. So I don't think. People put it in place thinking it's going to solve the problem. It's going to provide, it's going to give access to all these people who don't have access. It doesn't work. There's been so many examples of people trying this, and it's available in most places. We still have 64% who are only have internet access. So I don't think it's helping them, and we're keeping that divide.
Rick?
So you had referred to it as a Band-Aid. The question is doing it as a bridge. I mean, to me, bridge, Band-Aid, stepping stone. I think if you view this as a transitional aid, um, like yes, there is Wi-Fi out there, but the fewer places that have publicly available Wi-Fi, the more impactful it is that you have to go and travel to them. So, I would say if you're able to look at the community, the pockets of community that are in those lower adoption rates and meet them where they are, youth drop-in centers, community centers, libraries, sports fields, where people are already, and you have more of that availability. Does it solve the problem and bring it to their home? No, but I think it can lessen the impact of having to go travel to it. And I would also say, strategically, hopefully, whether it is because of, further efforts from government organizations or other sort of headwinds that are improving socioeconomic situations for people, I do think strategically as your business, if you provide this and do so, some tasteful branding, the splash pages for the Wi-Fi, whatever, if you make this investment and it was beneficial to these people when they are in a position to adopt your service in their home, they're going to remember who stepped up. And I think that's, as a bridge, yeah, that's how I would view that.
I think I'm going to have to go with I love this. And I think I love this because it's going to take the village to bridge the divide. And community Wi-Fi is an important piece of that bridge. And you're right. It can't just be the library. It can't just be a couple of restaurants that offer guest networks that a kid can go and have dinner, have a dinner with friends and still be working on there. I remember going to the Kettle restaurant and doing our homework when we were in college, right? Because they had Wi-Fi and hot coffee. It was fantastic, right?
But that's not accessible if you don't have, if money is an issue,
Yeah.
going and having a meal out for the sake of getting connection to
Yeah,
Wi-Fi.
it has to be the
that's
community
fiction.
centers. It has to be the libraries, and sometimes it's some of the parks. I mean, there's open access networks not technically open access networks, but community Wi-Fi in the parks and green spaces and things like that.
They can go back to all the schools, at least in our area. They all have Wi-Fi and they can get back on. And the schools are open pretty late into the evenings, at least some of them. But it's just not working. So I don't think it's working as a bridge.
There's lots of schools that they close the buildings. You may have extracurricular after hours, but it's in the sports facilities. You can't get into the buildings themselves anymore. It's wild.
You can get into the commons and stuff in our area.
So that's good.
That is great.
Yeah.
All right. Next, love it or hate it. ISP-led digital literacy. Love it or hate it? I'm going to say love it.
I'm going to say hate it.
Yeah, I think I love it. We'll get into it.
Well, I love it, but it is a capacity management opportunity, right? If you're trying to build a business and you don't have time to be offering any digital literacy, then you can't do it. But it is something I think that could be aspirational for your brand, that you're offering digital literacy alongside the internet connection.
I'll caveat by saying that we never did this, first of all, so I'm not speaking from any personal experiences. And I'll also point out the fact that we're this deep in the episode and we haven't really talked much about digital literacy being a huge limiting factor. There's information out there showing that it contributes to being a barrier for adoption or accessibility to broadband, but it isn't the headline issue that we've identified. But let's say you have enough information about your communities that you serve where you just know this is something that people are struggling with, and you believe that if there was something out there to help people build this knowledge, that it would be beneficial. I like it. I'm picturing, like, we talk a lot about the field technicians and how they get to experience all of the kind of the highs of connecting with the community and how that fills your bucket and how beneficial that is. There's a lot of knowledge within an ISP. This is not your main business, to your point. If you have time to do this, that's great. Not all ISPs are, depending where they are on their journey and everything. But I think, hypothetically speaking, within your four walls of that business, you have a lot of knowledge. People understand these topics well. So I think the it's kind of there at arm's reach to say, you know what, let's get some of our people together, some of the people from the office that haven't had a chance to connect with the community. I think it just could be a really, one of those things that you would get more than you give almost as a result. So I like it.
So I
I
think
like
we've
it.
got a lot of the knowledge, but the teaching, that's a different skill set. Having the knowledge and being able to teach the knowledge are two different things. People are not always good teachers. So I don't think the ISP is the right place to put this. If you've got this, if we're gonna go back to your first one and go with the love it of the community Wi-Fi, those are the places where you should be doing this digital literacy at the libraries, at the community centers, offering these sorts of things. And there is a skill set of people who can offer that sort of thing. We never did it at ExcelNet either, right? We actually set up to do it. We bought hardware, so we would have computers that people could come in and start using, and we set up a room to do it, and then never launched it. Because it took away from the focus as well. So I mean, that's the other big risk to the ISP is our resources are limited, and I don't think the ISP is going to prioritize this enough to do it well. And so that's why I said hate it, because I don't think done half-heartedly is going to be beneficial.
It could be wrapped into your branding and your marketing. It could be on your Facebook page. It could be a pro tip, digital tip. That did you know this is what could happen if you follow that link? What is malware? What happens when your computer breaks? And if they can't afford their internet and they finally got a computer and they follow that link and they brick their computer, what are they going to do about that? Teaching them how to avoid bricking their computer could be helpful.
So teach them digital literacy once they're on. And I mean, you can advance their digital literacy with that sort of thing, but I saw it as a more low-level problem.
Right.
I
You're
don't know
about how to navigate.
Right. I
File
can't
folders.
see those articles you
Yeah.
just created because I don't know how to do that, and I don't have the skill set or the hardware or anything. I don't even have internet in my house.
Yeah.
I have to go to the community Wi-Fi now to do anything digital literacy. So I think it's a tough.
I do want to challenge something that you said or push back on it a little. First of all, I agree that teaching is a skill, but if we're just talking about like within your organization, what skills and weaknesses and different opportunities are there, you're hiring staff, you're teaching. Every time you hire somebody new, you are teaching them how to do the job. You have teachers within your organization, I guarantee you.
But I'm teaching people who have a base skill set. I'm teaching different. That's different than teaching
The
a
masses.
brand new skill set.
I think that
I think
there are
differences.
you're teaching. You're still teaching. Maybe you need to rethink it, but those raw skills are there. I don't know. I think people are
and to take it
capable
back
of a
to
lot.
your earlier statement about AI, digital literacy to me right now is about AI. It's not about how to turn on your computer and how to run a defrag and how to find your documents on your hard drive any longer. There's a much bigger picture in play for digital literacy.
Yeah, how to write a prompt is a huge part of it, right? Garbage in, garbage out has never been more relevant than with LLMs.
Yeah.
So if people don't know how to use it, then they're not, just because they have an internet connection and they know enough to go to chatgpt.com, if they don't know how to write a prompt and how to think about that, it's just as good as not having access to it because they're going to get absolute nonsense out of it.
All right, we're going to have to wrap this one up, and I think we're all going to be in agreement on this one, but I could be wrong. The remaining divide is not geographic. It is socioeconomic. Love it or hate it.
I love it. I think we've all
Love it.
made our case for that one.
I think this whole episode has made the case for the fact that it is a socioeconomic divide.
And I think we need to continue to more and more think about access to the internet
And how we can help.
but as a utility. It's not a luxury.
Right.
And that's where this affordability discussion comes in. If you just leave it up to the private market, and this is only available to the privileged, that is a huge societal concern.
Great point.
Yeah, I mean, our whole discussion up to this point has led to 3 love-its.
Yeah.
So
There we go. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
If bandwidth helps you think more clearly about the work you're doing, leave a quick review on Spotify. It helps more operators find the show. All right, let's wrap up today's episode. My final question of the day is, what if your business case shows that a specific neighborhood would be less profitable due to low income residents? Do you skip it? Do you skip serving that area? Or do you put your money where your mouth is?
So I know the cable companies do this all the time. I mean, if you watch where their expansions happen, they are skipping the what are considered the unprofitable neighborhoods. We did not do that. Well, I mean, one of the advantages of Wi-Fi is you kind of get to not skip them.
It goes where it
as long as
goes.
your towers are in the right spots.
Of wireless versus fiber?
Right. So with wireless, it's easier to not skip those neighborhoods. Whereas with fiber and the cost of doing that, it's easier to just take that one line through that neighborhood that you don't think is going to be profitable and then start pushing it out to all the houses on the other side. The other thing, though, I think is, people maybe haven't analyzed their use case well, because even though these are lower income, we found they were incredibly customers that had high loyalty, and the churn was super low in these neighborhoods. So they may be lower income, but they were also very low churn if you were supporting them and providing the services that they were looking
And frankly,
for.
people don't like to move. They don't want to move. If they find a place that they can pay their rent, they're good, it's close to where they work, their kids are ensconced in schools, that people don't want to move. So their total lifetime value as a customer could overcome the lower value of the customer month-to-month revenue. Rick, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the way this is written, it's not infeasible or, it's less profitable. Yeah, I really do think you should do it. What you described is exactly what happens, right? You're building out here, the backbone will continue through it, and then they build out here. Like that is rough. And I think it's the right play. When I think back to some of our regions that we served, you would get into these conversations with people that fall into hard times. They'll let you know. Sometimes you negotiate, can I pay a little bit later, or, put them on a payment plan, or whatever the case may be. But you would see how real it is that people are like, you got all your expenses laid out on the table. You got food, and you got rent, you got gas, and you got internet. When you fall on hard times, the internet becomes one of the most important things to keep going. Like I had said before, if you need to apply for jobs, that is
Or
done on the
benefits.
internet, or your benefits, that is done on the internet.
Logging in for unemployment.
Even just, smaller things, like if you're tightening your purse strings and you're canceling your cable, or you're going out to, the movies less, or whatever you're doing, you're cutting down that entertainment. Where do you go for entertainment? The internet, right? So I think, yes, that loyalty is also just reflected in the fact that you need it, and it's one of the last things you're willing to give up. So it's maybe a different clientele. I also think from an investment standpoint, like there is a lot of neighborhoods that trend over time where the socioeconomic status changes, and if you skip it, you're leaving that void for one of your competitors to come in and grab. Like even if even if you're not doing it for kind of these good for the soul, good for the community reasons, I still think there's a kind of a cold hard business case to build out of it as well.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
And the last thing is, there are grants and tax incentives sometimes at every level, local, state, federal, that can help to make these communities, better to be served, and help make them more profitable. So you should be looking into that at each of the levels, because it differs by community, obviously.
It's a great point.
Great point. Excellent. Thank you so much, gentlemen. This was a great conversation, and I believe we will circle back to the digital divide yet again before the end of this year.
I would imagine. If this episode resonated, go back and check out our previous episode on the digital divide. We spend more time on the access and adoption side of the problem, and why closing the gap is harder than it looks. It's a great companion to this conversation. hit play on that next.
Remember, when you connect communities, you unlock what's possible. Until next time.